Hello, you're listening to the Quarter Horse Hauler with Ryan Fleetwood. We'd like to welcome you back. And today we have with us a guest from about an hour away from where I live here on the ranch. We're doing an interview in my living room. And Jenn Webster from Western Horse Review is with us. So hello, Jenn.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
Thanks for joining. That's great. Glad to have you.
It's been an awesome day. You have a beautiful place, and I super appreciate this.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, with that, tell us a little bit about what we've been doing here today, what you've been doing here today.
Okay, so I own a publication called Western Horse Review, and I just brought this so that you could see.
Yeah.
And it goes all through Canada, and we do an issue every 2 months, and it's strictly about the Western horse industry. Probably a lot of performance horse kind of thing in there, quarter horses, all that kind of stuff. And every issue we have to put together something really creative for a photo shoot, because fashion and all that kind of thing is really important in the industry these days. And constantly we're thinking of new themes to put together.
Mm-hmm.
So people, like, some of these photo shoots get a little far-fetched. But the thing is, horse people are very diverse, right?
Yeah.
So these people, they do dirt bike, they do have boats, they do have ATVs. And so we focused our photo shoot today on boating and horses. And we've got a few projects in the works. So I'm pretty excited about it because there's a video happening for a horse show called The Exhibition, if you're familiar with that. That's a new development in Canada. And then I've got Stampede style that's happening. So we're focusing on all the fashion for that and getting still shots. And then, there's the editorial that I'm also trying to capture. So your farm has been a beautiful place and a beautiful host for us. I really appreciate it. And all the horses that we could just choose and pick from is excellent. So yeah, it's been a good day.
My wife is a good host.
Oh, and she's a gorgeous model too. Like that worked out fantastic.
It's great. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. And then we got to do this interview too.
Yes.
So yeah. So sticking with the Western Horse Review theme before we get into talking about your family and your business and the rest of the things that you do, give us some details on the magazine, how long you have been the editor and owner and whatever all your titles are around the Western Horse Review. Just anything you want to talk about.
Okay, sure. Well, I wear a lot of hats when it comes to the magazine. I'm sure, as you know, being an entrepreneur, you have to do a lot of different things. So my favorite thing to do is the writing.
So speaking of the Western Horse Review, Jenn, before we go on to talking about your family and all of the other things that you do, let's talk about the magazine a little bit more. My memory of it goes way back in time to when it was called Northern Horse Review. I know it's been around for a long time and probably the foremost publication for horses and whatnot in Western Canada, if not Canada.
I appreciate that.
It's a great magazine.
Thank you.
So give us some background and whatnot on that.
Well, the magazine is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, which is pretty exciting for me. And yes, it did used to be called Northern Horse Review.
Yeah.
And when we hit a milestone anniversary, I believe it was around the 15th anniversary, something to that effect. We decided that we needed a name change. We had to rebrand ourselves because people were associating us with another company up here in Canada. Mm-hmm. And we just wanted to disassociate ourselves with that. And so we made the change to call it Western Horse Review, so that it still encompasses all the things that are important, all the Western performance sports, all the disciplines, all the breeds, all that kind of thing. And it's still that same publication that people had grown up with and grown to love, but we're getting a new name. And so that happened. And now, like I said, we've been here for 30 years. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty proud of it. Obviously, I didn't own it for 30 years. I started with the magazine when I was in college as an intern.
Yeah.
At about 2000.
And you were writing then?
Yeah. So in college, I went to Orleans College for equine business management. And the way I put myself through college, because I didn't come up from a family with a lot of means. So one of the ways I put myself through college was I was writing essays constantly for scholarships. And I got a lot of scholarships. And I always found myself drawn to writing in high school. And I was already taking university level writing courses while I was in high school. And then the scholarships came into play. And then I went to school for Olds College. I'd had background in horses before then. I used to work for Jonathan Aslin in the show jumping industry. Mm-hmm. I was in polo for a long time. And then I got to college for equine and realized like I didn't want to be a trainer. I didn't have that in me to be a trainer, but knew wanted to be with horses, obviously. And I put the writing and the horses together and started out as an intern for the magazine and then got hired on full time. And then here we are several years later. I bought it with my husband, Clay, of course.
Yeah.
I bought it in 2015.
Right.
So, and it's my other baby.
Yeah. Other than the two babies.
Yes. Well, sometimes three. Yep.
It's a great magazine, and we really are fortunate that you have it and you do all the great work with it that you do.
Thank you.
For this
Well, I think
area.
we have so much in Canada, so many good horse people, so many great horses, and a lot to be proud of, and we need to preserve that culture. It's really important to me, and the magazine is one way to do it.
Yeah.
So I like my job.
Yeah. How do you find having a print magazine in this world of everything being digital, and how is it received when it goes out? What's your new publications like? What is your readership? Is it primarily female? I'm wondering because you're doing this fashion shoot and having talked about that, Tell us a little bit about that side of it.
Well, I find this is a great question because the demographics of the magazine are all over the place.
Yeah.
I will go to the mailbox and I will get 25 handwritten letters that are all the addresses are handwritten and everything. And the people are subscribing to the magazine with a handwritten letter.
Wow.
And you just don't see that too much anymore. No. But I am getting subscriptions from people in that demographic. And then I'm also getting subscriptions for people online. Now, people are also starting to read it online. They don't want the paper copy. And then there's also the world of social media, which I never, when I first started in the magazine, obviously the bread and butter was the print magazine. Sure. But now you have to be in all those other places, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So that's a learning curve for me because it started with Facebook.
Yeah.
And now we're on Instagram and now we're on TikTok and Snapchat. And it's a lot to keep up with. Mm-hmm. And then, pictures on Instagram aren't enough anymore. It's all about Reels and TikTok. And so we have to be very progressive. And I'm trying constantly to evolve. And that's why in a lot of my freelancers, I'm bringing in people that are from all walks of life and are younger than I am, to be totally honest, because they're introducing me to new stuff in the world of the digital, the digital world, I guess. They're teaching me things every day that I never thought would have been important back in the day when I first interned.
Yeah.
So, and it is hard go, I'll be honest. There's all the people who say print is dead. But then, like I said, I go to the mailbox next week and I got 24 more letters. People want the magazine and they want it in hard copy. Yep. So I have to cater to everybody. And that's really what we're trying to do and still give the same great quality of content and editorial, but make sure we're in all those different places.
Sure. I find myself right on that edge of where, I use online platforms. I spend a lot of time in front of my computer, but I also really like a magazine or a book that I can hold and read. And I don't necessarily want to be on a screen all the time. My morning routine is to usually sit down, eat some eggs, and pull out a Western Horse Review or the Western Horseman or, the AQHA magazine, something like that, and sit down and flip through it and read it. And I don't want to read it on a screen.
Yeah, I know.
It's just not the same.
Well, you're probably from the same age as me. As when we sat down for breakfast. We're from the same era. Yeah, exactly. And what we did as kids was we read the back of cereal boxes.
Yeah, you read something.
While we're eating our breakfast. We weren't looking on iPads to entertain ourselves.
No,
we
didn't have them.
No, exactly.
Let's be honest.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
When we started texting, it was that T9 texting. You remember that? Yeah. You had to hit like 3 buttons at a time. Anyway.
Oh, you're right. I forgot all about that. And the Blackberries and the flip phones. Yeah. It's hard to keep up these days.
Yeah. So is it appropriate for me to ask about the readership of your magazine?
Oh,
because,
sure. Yeah.
Primarily in the horse industry, we find more women than men. That's just kind of the way it is. So what about the magazine?
Well, I would totally agree with you on that. And then those figures change when you look at the Instagram stats or the Facebook stats, because, and I'm sure you're seeing this too, but yeah, I would say a lot of our readers, actually, I would say it's right down the middle for the print magazine. And that's maybe more of an older group of people too. Yeah. And then when you get into the Instagram, and it depends on the video or the picture, then you can definitely see the differences between male and female.
Right.
But what I'm actually seeing in the real world of horse showing, because my family does that too, it's interesting to me. There's a lot of young girls coming up, and there's maybe 2 little boys. And
it's pretty typical.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing there. So, and then there's the world of assistant trainers too, as I'm sure you understand very well. There's a whole different demographic for that. So,
yeah.
It's true that with this fashion shoot, I probably am catering more to the females, but because it's about Stampede fashion, it's one of our favorite shoots. Anything goes,
Yeah.
And the girls that we have today are just like fabulous, and I'm super happy to have them, and they just nailed it. So
good. Great. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I think they're out doing more photos as you and I speak.
Yes, they are.
So I'm thinking of a funny story. I remember when I was a teenager and I was involved in horse shows, and I remember 2 or 3 of my guy friends being like, why are you doing this horse stuff? Like, it's so weird, right?
Oh, that's too bad.
But you have no idea how many girls are around all the time. It's fantastic. They're really missing out as guys to not be involved in horse.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, you guys, you got to take a look at what you're missing here.
Yeah, that's right.
My son is in there, and his friends will come and watch him. But yeah, so far nobody's taken the leap to actually get in there.
So let's talk about your family a little bit. Tell me about this guy named Clay. When and where and how did you meet him? And how long has your evolution of family been?
Okay, so Clay is my husband, as you know, and we are actually going on 20 years of marriage this year. So our 20th anniversary.
Cool.
And so I met him by interviewing him for an article. And back in those days, we would just a lot of times do phone calls, Yeah. And I ended up talking to this guy for like hours. And my roommate was like, oh my gosh, can you please, we have stuff to do. Can you get off the phone?
Yeah.
But Clay and I hit it off really well, and we couldn't see each other, right? So that was the funny thing about this. And then the coincidence was I was working for a polo boss at the time. And he was like, I've got this new horse trainer. I've got my young green colts in with. You got to meet him.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't date cowboys. But he's like, no, seriously, you got to meet him. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
And turned out it was the same guy I was talking to on the phone for the interview.
Nice.
But then when we actually saw each other, I was like, it's all about Wranglers, and that's not really my thing. And then I had leather pants on, and he was like, nuh-uh. It was pretty interesting because we really judged each other when we saw each other, but we hit it off really well.
Yeah.
Just by personality.
Right.
So we decided we'd give it another shot, and then after that we were inseparable. Awesome. And now we have, we've been together longer than 20 years, but married 20 years.
Yeah.
And now we have a set of twins that are 13, and they're like our pride and joy, and we're a pretty solid unit, and life's good. So I'm excited for the future, especially because for a long time, my kids actually weren't into horses. We have horses all around on our ranch, in their backyard. There's some immersed in it, put it that way.
Yeah.
And so Clay and I never pushed them to the horses because we've known of some trainers' kids who want nothing to do with it as they grow up.
Yeah.
And we just thought, okay, we get it. If you're not interested, don't worry. But if you are, it's here and it's available. And now they've really taken to it. And this week they're both trying to qualify for Calgary Stampede working cow horse.
That's awesome.
So, and they both rode last year, and my son ended up third. So we're hoping for another good year.
And I know I see things online about your kids are out there like kicking butt and taking names. So
they scare the crap out of me. I'm really glad I don't have to show in the youth classes, put it that way.
Against them?
Yeah, I would be clobbered. Like, they just qualified for the Run for a Million, both of them, which I didn't see that coming. So now I got to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So tell us about your training business, your horse business with Clay, how all that works.
So Clay is the trainer. Like, I do all the administration stuff on the side, and I'm still out there mucking stalls every once in a while too. You know, when you have a ranch, you have to do everything, right?
All the jobs.
Yeah. But I don't do the training of the horses. That's Clay's deal. And he is specifically like a working cow horse trainer and a reining horse trainer. And he's got multiple Canadian titles, national titles, and he's been top 10 in the world several times in cow horse. So he's also a clinician. He goes all over Canada. He's been to Holland to conduct clinics and at things like when they used to have the main event, farm fair. He's conducted clinics there too.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty busy lifestyle.
Not only is he a knowledgeable guy, he's one of the nicest guys you could meet.
Oh, thank you.
He really is.
That.
Yeah.
He is really like, he's a people person.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't want to admit it.
He doesn't want to be, but he is.
Yeah, it's funny because I made him a sweatshirt for like his birthday last year, and it has 3 of our horses across the sweatshirt, and it says, "All peopled out. Thank God for horses." But, you know, like, sometimes when you're with people a lot, at the end of the day, you're just like, I just want to go pet my horse.
You need an energy break.
Yeah,
for sure. I get it. We were talking earlier about when we first met, and neither one of us really remembers when we first met, but it seems to me like we've been acquainted forever.
Yeah.
And I have to say that, you know, in the first few times of being around you and Clay, and, you know, you guys are like Clay and Jenn Webster. No, really. And Clay's this trainer, and you have the magazine, and you know, we kind of know these people, but you and your husband have both, every time we've ever encountered you, been so pleasant and so kind. So
thank you.
I just think everybody should get to know you guys a little bit and look into what you're doing, the business, the magazine, all of the above, because you're really great people.
Thank you. Well, and the same goes to you and Brandy too. Like, the fact that you've opened your home to us today, and every time I see you guys at trade shows, we have a good little visit, you know. Like, it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we'll get together at Stampede again, too.
I agree. Yeah. So tell us about Stampede. What happens at Stampede for you?
Honestly, I'm just a tourist there when Stampede actually happens. Yeah. But my family likes to be there almost 10 days of it. So it's a busy time. We often have, like, our couches are full of people, our basement's full of people because they're all coming to stay. But Clay is the official coach for the Calgary Stampede royalty and the First Nations princess. So the thing about that is a lot of his work happens throughout the year. So he's training these girls to ride, essentially. And a lot of them come from riding backgrounds, don't get me wrong. But some of them don't have, like, really solid riding backgrounds. Yes. So now they're also, the horses are supplied by the Stampede. The First Nations princess is owned by us. It's one of my daughter's horses, actually. Okay. Yeah. And they, you know, if they don't have a horsemanship background or they're not comfortable with horses, they've got to get used to it because, you know, they're going to be riding in parades, however many parades in the year. There's grand entries to do. There's lots of things,
They're representing the greatest outdoor show on earth, which is an entirely Western show. So,
so they have to have their horsemanship knowledge and be comfortable with it. So we keep the horses at our property. And they have a crew of people, too, that are around them. So it's not just Clay and I, don't get me wrong. But we board them, look after them, and then Clay teaches them private lessons all through the year. And then those girls are expected to go to the Stampede. And so once Stampede starts, we don't really have to do a lot because our work is already done.
It's just the rest of the year.
Yes. And if there's an emergency, you know, they'll call Clay, or if they need some help with something, they'll call him in the middle and he goes and helps them for sure. But other than that, we kind of get to take it in. The thing about the working cow horses, though, my family likes to compete in that. So a lot of times, the last kind of weekend of the year, we are there as competitors.
Yeah. So as you know, because we see each other there, I'm sometimes one of the judges for the royalty contest
Yes.
for Calgary Stampede. And it is always interesting to watch those girls come and go through and apply their skills. And, you know, I don't see the other things that they judge them on at all, but I get to see all of the horsemanship.
Yeah.
And not that most of those girls can't already ride, but I always think, you know, once you're through this, you've got Clay, you'll be okay.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that is the hope for sure, because you know, it's a safety issue. Everybody's got to be looked after. Horses got to be looked after. They also have to be turned out, represented well, healthy. There's a lot that goes into it.
You bet. Yeah. So I want to shift focus for a minute and ask you, because this is the Quarter Horse Hauler, right? I have to bring up, what is your perspective? What's your view, and how often do you do business with the AQHA?
Well, on a personal level, I do all the time, because we own quarter horses and we have a stallion, and there's full registrations and all that kind of thing. And the one thing that I thought was really cool last year, and we show AQHA too. We do go to quarter horse shows.
Right.
And that's mostly for the reining, mind you, not the cow horse, because there's not a lot of that up here.
Yeah.
But we're dabbling in the odd trail class or ranch versatility. We're trying some of those things out.
Fun. Good.
But one thing I thought was super cool about AQHA last year was they had that booth where you could bring your papers to the Stampede. Yeah. And like in 20 minutes, you could have a transfer done and in your hands.
It's happening again.
I thought that was incredible. And I didn't know about it till last year.
Yeah, so they'll be back again.
Okay, well, I'll be there with a stack of paper. It's like so easy. I didn't have to put it in the mail. You know, it was done. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, it is. And you get your papers back right there. And
I think that more people should know about that, honestly, because it was pretty convenient for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's difficult to get out there and let everybody know, because so often you find people are not reading the emails or whatever that they get from AQHA. But yes, if you're seeing this, AQHA will be at the Calgary Stampede, just like you were talking about.
And I guess I could tell you too, on a personal level, like both my husband and I are lifetime members.
Great.
And our kids now, we're starting to get them the lifetime youth membership.
Nice.
So that's kind of exciting.
Good.
They were pretty excited to get their first AQHA cards.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you have an opinion on digital registration?
No, at this point, I'm not sure I'm educated enough to comment on that. I know what I'm used to. Like, I go back to the days where, remember the papers were blue and white?
Yeah.
And you could see all the owners, and you could see their AQHA ID numbers. Yeah. I go back to those days, and those were super handy.
Yes.
So I think as with anything, it's probably going to be a learning curve for people.
Sure.
But I suppose change is good sometimes, and maybe we're just going to have to give it a chance. But other than that, I can't comment too much.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's been an ongoing issue, as you probably remember from my social networking, for quite a while.
And you know what? You're one of the people that I follow to keep me up to date on these things, because if it weren't for you, I don't think I'd know about these things.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
I think. So just switching gears a little bit again, tell me about some mentors in your life.
Well, oh goodness. I'd have to start with my grandfather. Probably. I just lost him, unfortunately, on the solar eclipse. But he was the one that got me into horses, and I got my start like when I was a kid. I want to say grade 5. And one of the most significant memories of my life was going on a trail ride with him. And it actually wasn't a trail ride. It was like a whole bunch of chuck wagons and a whole bunch of people. And it was 3 days, and we started in Bazzano, I don't remember, but it ended up in Jenner Rodeo, and we rode chuck wagons and slept in the fields.
Sounds pretty epic.
It was awesome, and it shaped my whole memory for horses, I think, as a young child. And after the Belgians would be done pulling the wagons and such, they would let us ride them around bareback. Wow. And I remember being so full-legged and so tired after that trip, but like will be forever ingrained in my memory. And then I never looked back. And what was hard is I'm a town kid. I grew up in Okotoks, and my parents were always hoping I'd grow out of it. You know, as they wanted me to play piano. They
it's not
didn't
looking good.
See a future for horses. Yeah. And I was like, nope, not happening. Sorry.
Yeah. It's not looking good for that.
No. And then, I've had other people like Ingrid Schultz. She was the one who brought me on when I first started with the magazine. She owned it with her sister at that time. And she taught me a lot. And then when it comes to like horsemanship, I'd have to say my husband, I cannot believe how much I learned from him.
Yeah.
And it was weird because I used to ride horses that were, break my ankles and put me in dangerous situations. And I didn't know it could be so much better.
Yeah.
There are actually nicer horses in the world,
Sure. Yeah.
So and then my family, I'd have to really give props to them too. Like my mom always has my back. Even though I'm 44, she always has my back, and my dad too. So, I'm really thankful for the family that I have, and I might get a little emotional talking about it, actually.
I understand. I understand, because I have had a great family too.
Yes, you have.
And have a great family now, similar to you. So aren't we lucky people?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't have asked for anything more. It's all I ever wanted was a family, horses and dogs, and the quietness of living on a ranch. And
you have it all.
I mean, I wouldn't mind a boat too, but but you got to pick and choose, right? Like, if you have too many horses, you can't afford boats. So
yeah, exactly. We pick our poison.
Yeah, exactly.
Ours is on 4 legs.
Yes.
Tell me if you can think of something right off the top, a pivotal life moment for you. It could be negative or positive, but something that was one of those moments where you learn or grow or have an aha. This is the way it should be.
That's a really good question. There's probably a few significant moments in my life. I lost a brother when I was I want to say it was like 2004.
Oh.
And that was a really hard deal for me because we actually never found his body. So it was from that point forward, like he was supposed to be at our wedding. We got married that year, and I'd been talking with him. We had plans for him to come, and I was so excited because I hadn't seen him in a long time. And then that happened.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I was just like, do I go pick a job where I'm sitting in a corporate office or, something where I'm not happy? Or do I go pick a job where I'm enjoying everything that I do in the day? Because life is really short, and you just never know if it's going to be over all of a sudden. And this is the funny thing about this is I just had this conversation with my daughter the other day because I'm like, both my kids are in grade 7. They've got finals coming up, and I'm constantly on them. You got to get your grades up. You got to get your grades up. You need to be in the 80 percentile, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, but Mom, we want to be horse trainers when we grow up. And I was like, no, you don't. Because sometimes it's a hard life as a horse trainer, right? And I'm not a horse trainer. My husband is.
Yeah.
But the way we put groceries on the table is from the horse industry.
Yes.
And there are highs and lows, as I'm sure you understand.
Yes.
And now both my kids are talking about being trainers. Oh, boy. But my point is that I'm like, you got to get your grades up so that you have the option when you actually get to be 18. If you don't want to be a horse trainer, you could do something else.
Right.
My daughter turned around to me and she said, Mom, do you know the average person when they retire, they get 10 years off if they make it that long, if they live that long. So you get 10 years to enjoy your life.
And she's 13 and she has that kind of insight to life already?
Yeah, I was blown away.
Wow.
So she's like, why don't you let me have a job that I enjoy? And horse training is it. I was like, okay. Like, what can I say?
Nothing.
Yeah.
She had you.
I was speechless. And I don't know if she learned it on TikTok or what.
Right.
But
hopefully not.
It was mind-blowing, put it that way. Yeah.
I'm sorry for the loss of your brother.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I don't really talk about it very much, but it was a significant moment in my life, and it made me change course.
Sure. Those kinds of things do. I think that we somehow realize our own mortality when someone else's comes to pass.
Yeah.
And it makes you shake things down to the real important stuff.
Yeah, it's so
and
true.
Refocus.
Because you don't expect it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I need to take a breath here.
Yeah. Yeah, it changes everything. It changes the course of your life.
And horses, like, really have always made me happy. You know, I'm sure they do for you too.
Oh.
But I don't know what it is. I've had it in my blood. I can't get it out.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. I love it.
An interesting segue to a question I ask almost everyone that I meet, whether it's a podcast interview or I'm teaching people or I'm talking to someone about breeding horses.
Yeah.
But why do you have horses?
Oh, they make me so happy. I love the smell of them. I love, like, right now we have a bunch of colts in the front yard because we need grass mowers. But I love it because those colts will be running by my kitchen while I'm making supper. Or my kids, I've lost them for an hour and I don't know where they are. And then all of a sudden they ride bareback past the kitchen window.
Yeah.
And they just make me so happy. But also horses have instilled a lot of confidence in me in life when there was times of turmoil or, you know, I was really upset. They've really been there for me. I don't know how to explain it, but I've done everything from foaling to showing to now being a horse show mom to like doing the mucking the stalls to, you know, dealing with injuries. Because when, you know, have a ranch, you have to deal with everything. So, and I wouldn't change any of it. And yet if a human injury happened, I'm out. Like, I can't do it.
That's different.
And my sister's a doctor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can handle like animal injuries, no problem.
Yeah.
But people,
Yeah.
call somebody else because I'm fainting.
Yeah. That's funny. It's always interesting to me to hear that answer because people have different variations to the answer. You know, why do you have horses or ride horses or whatever it is that you do with horses? But in the end, it's always a thing that we need.
Yeah.
They give to us. They're a soul filler. They don't take from us.
I think it has actually like patched a part of me.
Yeah.
You know, like it is a part of me.
Oh,
I can't get it out. And I don't know if I stated my answer properly, but I just can't even imagine my life without horses.
Right. I'm totally with you. In times of turmoil, I return to my horses.
Yeah.
In happy times, I want to go and spend time with horses.
Yeah.
So I totally get it.
We go on vacation and I'm like searching out trail rides because I can't be away for that long,
right?
You know? Like last year in Jamaica, I'm like, there's horses coming up the beach. I'm like, hey, do you want to go ride? He's like, no.
No, thanks.
But me and the kids are all over
You're
it.
on it.
So,
yeah. I know. I remember Brandy saying to me one time, do you think we could do a holiday without going to see horses? I was like, no, actually, not at all.
Like even like the roadside turnouts you pick out, it's got to be big enough to pull a rig in, right?
Yeah.
I know. It's the same way.
Any major advice, or is there anything that you have learned or been told, someone's shared with you in your life that you think would be beneficial for other people to know?
Well, one big thing, especially when I was starting out, was, you know, I told you my family was quite worried about me making a career in horses. They didn't think it was a viable industry, that kind of thing, which is fair. I understand where they're coming from. They're just hoping for the best for me. But it is possible. You just have to be dedicated and committed. And it is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job.
Yeah.
It is not a 9-to-5. So if you're not okay with that, you better find something else.
Yeah.
The other thing that I found really awesome is having a partner like my husband who adores horses as much as I do.
Yeah.
Because they understand, you know, if somebody's colicking and it's 8:00 at night, you're not coming in to make supper. You're only coming in when the horse is good and the vet's done.
Right.
And he understands that.
Yeah.
Or if it's vice versa, same thing for him. You know, okay, don't worry, I got everything else covered. You look priority. After, and I will look after this stuff, you know. But not everybody is okay with that. So having a partner that totally gets horses and the fact that there's probably no schedule that goes along when you go to the barn is very helpful.
Yeah.
The other part is that if you really want this in your life, you can get it, even if you come from nothing, you know, but you have to be committed. And I don't mean for a year. Okay, like you might have worked really hard 24/7 for a year. Good for you.
Right.
But we're talking like, let's see you put in 20 years. Let's see you put in 40 years.
Yeah.
You know?
A lifetime commitment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the same for like when you buy a horse. It's not just a toy. I really believe like as breeders and such, you know, we want to find good homes for them. But if the good ones, and I've got a lot of geriatric horses at my house right now, the good ones will stay with us till the end because they deserve that.
Yeah.
And like, we have a stallion and a mare. I'm actually a reserve world champion in boxing. And that mare that I rode to that championship will be with me till the end. She can't have any babies. We can't even ride her anymore, but she deserves to be on green pasture and, you know.
She doesn't owe you.
No.
You owe her.
Exactly. And same with the stallion. And the kids are they're showing him, actually. Yeah. He's still going.
That's awesome.
So he's one of the ones they're trying to qualify for Stampede, but they ride him around bareback. It's like standing on him.
That's
he's
great.
Just like, whatever.
How wonderful to have horses like that.
Raise your kids, you know, like they're raising my kids for me sometimes.
So there's that dedication. Your daughter was talking about it. You're talking about having to have the dedication, and she's already at 13 years old saying to you, Mom, that's what I want.
I know. I know. And I guess, there's nothing wrong with being a horse trainer. I just know that there's some hard things that happen as
anything.
And you make sacrifices, right? Like money is one of the sacrifices we make sometimes, and we work hard. So, and I think I want my kids to have an easier life than I do.
Sure.
But maybe that's not what they want. So.
Yeah. It's the hard part, is to let our kids be what they want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very hard. I'm learning.
Jennifer, has been a great interview, and I really appreciate that you did it and took the time, and thank you for everything you've shared with us.
So appreciate
thank you so much.
This was fun.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for being on the Quarter Horse Hauler.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
I hope that you're listening to the episodes of the Quarter Horse Hauler and enjoying them. I'd love to hear feedback from you. You can reach me via email, ryan@fleetwoodfarms.com. That's ryan@fleetwoodfarms.com. I'm also available for hire if you're looking for help at your equine event. I can be a speaker and MC, an announcer, or an auctioneer. There's other options too. I've done quite a bit of judging and worked as a clinician for beginner and intermediate folks. I'm happy to pass along any knowledge I may have, and I love doing it. As an extrovert, a lifelong horseman, and an AQHA professional horseman, passing along knowledge and helping to educate is something that I really enjoy doing. One of my other passions is talking about breeding decisions, choices that we make in the industry, and trying to make the breed better. Whatever you need for a horse event, I might be able to help you out, and I'd love to have the conversation with you. If you'd like to follow us on social media, just look us up on your favorite social media streaming platform or podcast platform. If you'd like to support the podcast in a financial sense, you can look me up at buymeacoffee.com/Ryan Fleetwood, or subscribing, leaving a like, a review, or sharing this podcast with others makes a big difference to us. Filming, audio recording, and editing is done by Rodrigo Henriquez, Shannon Milligan, and Jared Middlebrook from Starset Media. I'd also like to thank my family for supporting me in this endeavor. All our links are in the show description. The Quarter Horse Hauler is a production of Ryan A. Fleetwood and Starset Media. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Quarter Horse Hauler.